Do you remember when you first started the church?
Well, I will tell you when I first started. My mother had a membership at Enon, and she and Daddy and me, we lived in Ruthville, and Mother was going to change her membership to Ruthville. So here I was, up in arms, but we had to go get Aunt Myrtle to hold me while Mother went up to go to church at Lewisville Baptist. So I guess you would say I was 6 weeks old.
Wow.
And that was a long time ago.
That was when your mother joined, when you first started. Do you remember how old you were when you joined the church?
I was 12. It was kind of unwritten, but we didn't really insist on children joining the church unless they were of the significance to know the meaning of being a member of Lewisville Baptist. So I was 12 years old. Ruby Stewart Calloway and I, one night at revival, joined the church for baptism. And I think, it's too late to ask, but I think that Ruby and I were the first Lewisville Baptist members to be immersed in a church building, not the river. We went over to Southern Baptist. They had a new baptistry, and my parents took Ruby and me over there for our immersion. I've always thought that was sort of special. Nobody does it but me, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
What about you?
I was baptized at Lewisville Baptist in the second sanctuary.
Okay.
There were several baptized the same night I was. Reverend Snyder was our pastor at that time.
I remember the first church very well.
Yeah.
It was a white clapboard church on that beautiful piece of property where we are today.
Yeah.
And it's funny how it was a one-room building.
Right.
Big room, piano, all were in there. But according to your age, that's the corner you got to go to for the service. So we have a right Ruth.
I think that when did Sunday school start? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but we did not have it.
So that could have been the Sunday school people went to certain corners for their class, and you may have just stayed there doing preaching. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Because I wasn't there during that time.
That may be the way it was, but we kind of grew according to age.
Do you remember, was it heated with a big stove in the middle?
Oh, do I ever? Oh, I know something about that stove. My daddy and Jack Doll's daddy built the fires for that old church. I bet Jack doesn't even know that, but Daddy's still complaining about how cold it was. and how dark it was. And Mr. Joel and my daddy would start the fire, and they would lie on the pews to take a little nap while the stove threw out the heat for supposedly the congregation.
Now, did you ever get to, we got the bell is out front of the church now, but did you ever get to ring the bell in that old steeple?
Oh no, but I wish we'd all like to love the bell, and Ruth knows a lot about the bell.
Yeah.
In fact, I think, helped restore it, didn't you?
I didn't help get it there, but I helped restore it after Johnny knew a man that did powder coating.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of powder coating for Johnny, and Johnny mentioned the bell to him, and he said, well, I do church bells for free. And Johnny said, well, I'll bring you one. And so then the Messick boys built a brick column that the bell is sitting on, the Messick Brothers construction, masonry building.
That's good.
So actually, the bell represents the first building.
Right.
And then you walk into the vestibule, that stained glass window represents the second building, and then you walk into the present sanctuary.
That's great.
Ruth and Johnny have done a lot for not only the beauty of the sanctuary,
Yeah.
but for the meaning of the sanctuary.
You help prod me along. You help pull me along.
I was the worst Sunday school teacher that anybody ever had. But I love those women. But I didn't know that you kind of taught us your scripture would be interesting. I went right by the Bible, and as soon as I got through with that page, I went to the next one. I didn't have answers. I didn't have anything. I was dull, but you know what? They came anyway, because I guess they wondered what in the world I would do next. I only taught 1 year. I don't remember being invited back.
We invited you back, but you declined, I think. 1 year, I don't remember exactly how old I was, probably maybe in my 40s. Our Sunday school teacher asked to be relieved, and they didn't get anybody, and Mary Alice volunteered to take us. And we loved it. But she had a business trip to New York, and back then to buy, what's the chocolate? Anyway, she brought us chocolates from New York. We couldn't buy those around here. We were treated to a chocolate when she came back from her trip the next Sunday.
Oh, I was in Washington. And I would always, because I knew that I was so limited otherwise, I always tried to find treats for other people so they would love me.
We loved her without it, but the chocolate was very special.
Those church buildings?
Well, I am one of the few living Baptists who stood with her mother on the bank while that first building burned. It was on a hot afternoon, and somebody yelled, "The church is on fire," and we lived not too far from that. And my mother and I walked up there, and where the bank is now, it was a raised bank.
Yeah.
Bank like architecture. And anyway, we stood there, and I don't remember crying. I was just so stunned. And of course, everybody remembers seeing the piano burn. That's the fun. And that was just I mean, you just couldn't believe that God's house would burn down to the ground. But it did. And almost overnight, the men got together to see where we would be on Sunday. And there was a store on the corner of the old store, on the corner of Stars Road and Lewisville Road. And Mr. Wright, somehow or other, got places. And then on Sunday, we got to sit there and have our Sunday school lesson. And the people who were older made all the plans for us to continue to be a body of Lewisville Baptists in action. It was really interesting as I look back on actually how beautifully they put everything together. It was just unbelievable.
And did lightning cause the fire? Was there a thunderstorm and lightning that caused the fire?
Yeah, that's funny. Since we started talking about this meeting, I can't remember. It had to be lightning because nothing else would have come down and made such a terrible fire.
Yeah.
But it was wild. It was a blaze. It was a burning, terrible sight. And we all stood there. Different people took spots. I remember we stood on that bank where the bank is down, the Wells Fargo Bank is down, and watched the horrible, horrible scene.
And y'all saw the bell fall, I think somebody said at WSC.
I think my cousin W.S. Carter saw the bell fall. I didn't see that. Ruth, it wasn't long.
No.
The men gave timbers from their farms.
Yeah.
And gave the labor, and somehow we got enough money to buy the nails and things. But this next building was no more cardboard. It was going to be brick, and it was going to be with a basement. We thought that was kind of a bit behind town. Some of us who were my age thought we can do all that. But it was I'll be frank with you. Of the three churches, my fondest memories are for the middle one. But maybe that's because of what all happened to me in my church life.
Well, a lot of things the ladies did, they would have lawn parties to raise money. I think they raised the money for the carpet or the pews or something.
We did. I'll tell you. Mary Stimson, Shepherd, your ancestor. I bet we've carried more glasses of iced tea down that walk to the highway for lawn parties. Lawn parties were big. And we had two members who worked in town. One was Elsie Martin and Zelda Kinney. And they would go to town. They didn't sell tickets, but they would tell everybody about these wonderful meals at Lewisville Baptist. And they were not too expensive. And so the people from town would come out to our meeting, a lawn party, and boy, that's what it was. And it wasn't babes either, but we would have the meetings there. And the WVU would sponsor, and we gave lots of money to the carpet, but mostly we did it for love. I can remember me standing to pick up my tea before I took it out, and I hear what said, "That piece of cake is too little. Cut a bigger one." And they would serve. Be sure that everyone had enough to eat and enjoy it. But don't be excited about that they were getting so much food. We wanted to come back 2 weeks from then, that Saturday. We would have had it the next Saturday, but the Methodists had one, so we had one Saturday, and then the Methodist Church, which was our neighbor, had one. So everybody in Ruthville would have a chance to eat. But we had a choir, and Miss Prince, who was a preacher's wife, was the director, and we would all get up there. And of course, Mary Shepherd and I got to sit on the front row because we were young girls, not the only young girls. But Mary and I were at the age of your giggling. And one day something, I don't know, a book fell on the floor or what, but we just had a real hysterical time of laughing. And there the kid reached up between us and said, "You all think of a funeral." Well, with that, we absolutely went berserk. After that, Mrs. Stimson talked to Mary, my mother talked to me, and we never giggled again. Source of the Lottie Moon at that time supposedly was with the WMU, the Women's Missionary Union. Mrs. Lawrence was the head of the WMU, and she kept us busy, and our mothers. And I've always felt like we started something that the main church has helped with.
I remember when you used to meet on Saturday afternoons.
Always with refreshments.
Is that when your regular meetings were, Saturday
Because
afternoon?
most families only had one car. Even if the wife could drive, she had no car, so they'd wait till Saturday afternoons when the husbands were home and they could have the car.
Okay.
And the decorations for the table was very important too.
Oh, it was a real classy outfit, that WVU group.
I remember one Christmas when Mother was responsible for the decorations, we went down the farm where she was born and raised, and we gathered river birch, and she made candle holders out of the wood. We got running cedar out of the woods, holly off the trees. It was all natural decoration. It was beautiful.
Oh, your mother at one time was president of the WVU.
Yeah, for many years. Yeah.
But the WMU, it was a very viable part of the church. I don't know if the men had a fellowship, they probably did, but this was a religious thing. And we had GAs and other little people that came and had their little parts too.
And the children were Sunbeams. I remember
Sunbeams.
one, I don't know if it was probably at Christmas when y'all had a program. I guess I sang my first and only solo in church. I had to sing Jesus Wants Me for a Sunbeam. And I remember standing back and being so
You can do it again right now if you like to. I'll hum the tune. I know the tune.
And Lucille out of the choir helped get me started. And I remember Mother, well, she was because Mother was more dark complected. I guess it was something about Lawman because she was an Indian girl. I remember that same program that I sang. I was probably about 6 years old, maybe. When I sang Jesus Wants Me for a Sunday.
Now, my mother not only is beautiful in appearance, she is exacting. So, she told Joe Coltrane that I would help her put together all the historical papers, and we would take them over to Wake Forest University, have them microfished, and then they would give them back to us. Well, that turned out to be a big job. Mother and I take our lunch, so we'd have a break for that, but we would go out there by the day and order those papers. And then, you know who, me, had to carry them to Wake Forest to have them microfished. But I guess they're good records that a lot of people didn't take the advantage of. But I've always thought it was an opportunity.
And probably even more so when you realize our first church had burned. Of course, there were no.
That's right.
And all that preserved.
Oh, that's another thing. Okay, the first church burned, and we had left no records. You think we did wrong.
Right.
Mr. C.O. Sprinkle had bought the log in our house, and he had a big safe in that house. And so we stored our records in that safe, and so the Lewisville Baptist, we survived the fire with our records. And also someone, and no one knows exactly why they did it, the collection plate had been borrowed by the local school, and so they survived the cost. So those are the two mementos that we had that were just such a blessing always, because we had our first book of minutes and, very, very important, our collection plates. Hey, let me tell you what we have.
All right.
And Ruth knows about that because I think she is maybe the author. Let her tell you about what she has done that makes a historical record of our activities.
That mural you're talking about?
The mural.
That happened when we had the transition committee. That was one of the parts of the transition committee, was to make a mural. Well, someone had this idea that we fix this on the wall. So I did a lot of the collecting, but Joe Yearling did all the typing.
Oh, yeah.
And we stayed up there many nights till midnight.
Oh, I can imagine.
But if we hadn't had the records to look back on, we wouldn't have had anything to put on the wall.
Yeah, a lot of it lost, yeah.
So we used the minute book and some of the other things that we had on file. And one thing that Mary Alice instigated that maybe some churches don't have is a historical roll.
Yeah.
We started a historical roll several years ago,
Okay.
and we started the old minute book, read all the minutes, and Mary Alice, I would read, and Mary Alice would write down when I would come across where someone had joined the church. So we put
that's
the dates,
good.
so that's how the historical roll became.
Church. So I keep wondering, I'm always trying to learn more about the other pastors that were there. I was wondering maybe what your most memorable pastor was, who you remember as your favorite pastor back in the day. I mean, you could say me if you want to. That's okay, but
I'm going to be frank with you. We did not badmouth our pastor.
yeah,
We had respect for our pastor.
yeah.
I did do something, and I bet those two kids that I know that it has not been rectified, but retired pastors, and they didn't retire back then until they were senior, but they would just do anything to make money. And I called, and Millie Watts and I were looking at a biblical recorder and thinking that is unchristian to do that way. So they were having the convention. I can't remember whether it's Greensboro or Winston, but the three of us appeared at their committee meeting, and that we didn't get much, but the three of us have made retired pastors a little bit healthier money-wise. But I was that had gone on to heaven. Millie Watts and I talk still occasionally, but I remember so well, this was kind of a male organization, and I don't think they expected us three women to appear, but there we were, and we came out, not too much, but a little bit better off for the pastors.
You take care.